So we'll try and sum up the last part 3, the last Oisios of the Maamar Vayehiyu Chayei from Oisios Zayin, Ches, and Tes. So a quick overview of what we learned up until now. The pasuk v'yisrin aretz b'koili melech l'sade nevad. So let's look at it again with the example of the Sfiras HaMalchus, the way it's the moon. The moon went and became smaller. 2 aspects of it. Number 1, the Eibishter made the moon smaller, meaning that instead of it being a moir, instead of being a source of light where it has its own light that it gives, it becomes a mikabel, it becomes the moir hakatan, becomes the receiver that receives from the sun. And in addition from that, there's the idea of l'chiyu mati atzmech, where the Eibishter says to the moon, become smaller, you make yourself smaller, which is the fact that every single month the moon goes on a journey where it becomes smaller until it disappears, and that causes its renewal. And that's the idea of the Malchus, Sfiras HaMalchus, which is the Mekabel number 1 of the other Sfiras. Although Malchus, its source and its Shedesh is in the highest levels, in the highest places, but the Eibishter takes Sfiras HaMalchus and makes it become a Mekabel, a receiver. And in addition to that, Malchus becomes the Makar, the source of the worlds of Biyah, of the existence, which is a separate existence seemingly, to the extent that it's in a way that it does not receive godliness, that it doesn't feel godliness, and that's the idea of the idea of Sfiras HaMalchus. Now let's look at how that works in the world. Yisrei Naretz B'Koili. There's Aretz and there's Sadeh. Sadeh, the field, is the Sfiras HaMalchus, the way it is created, the way it's the Pnimius HaMalchus. Pnimius HaMalchus is the fact that it receives the oires that are above it. That's the natural state of Pnimius HaMalchus, and therefore it's a Makom Muchshar. It's a place which is set for light. So although there is still an Avedas Adam over there, Vayanchenu B'Gan Eden, La'avdo L'Shamra, that the Eibishter puts Adam Arishin in Gan Eden, but that's to help bring and to help enable the oires that are higher than Malchus coming into Malchus, which is the natural state of it, and to guard it from anything negative that holds back from that oir that comes in. Then there's the idea of Aretz. Aretz is the Chitzonius HaMalchus, where Aretz doesn't feel it's receiving anything else. On the contrary, its entire existence is that it's an existence which is concealing over godliness, which is the source of a separate existence. Yisra in Aretz, how do we bring the Yisra in the advantage into the Aretz? How do we bring that even in Aretz there should be an advantage, the purpose and the goal of why the Eibishter created this idea of the Chisaron of Malchus is B'Koili, to bring into it also the Sfiras of Yesod, which means that in the natural state it doesn't happen, but through a person's avodah, which the person's avodah is mostly la'avodas adama shelukach misham, to break the klippa, to break the coarseness of the world that hides over and that conceals the essence of the ability of the Oir Aliki to be revealed in Malchus. And once that's broken, then we're able to have B'Koili to bring down Yesod, to bring down the spirits that are above Malchus, that they should be able to shine in Malchus as it should be the natural state. That's the idea of Memale Kol Almin. Memale Kol Almin means that the Oires that Milchatchila are created to come into the world, but they have to be nimshach into the world, because by the nature of the world of Aretz, of Malchus, the way it's Aretz, it doesn't receive these oires. But once we break these klippa, once lavedes or adama, we work the land, it's able to receive that, then there's able to be the idea of revealing that lukach misham, the purpose and the mission of why man was created in this way. That's mamshech the edus of Memalikol. Then we have the idea of melech l'sad and nevad, through avodah. through the avodah in the sada. And here's an interesting thing. The avodah is dafka in the sada. The avodah is in the sada of bringing down giloyim which are higher. But when is this revealed? We don't say Yisrael sada. Melech l'sada nevad Yisrael it's bakeli. That's the way it should have been, seemingly. Because the natural state of events is that Melech l'sada nevad. And then as a result, you have Yisrael it's bakeli. So we say no. The sada, the way it's in its natural state, that it brings down the items that are higher than, there's no avodah there, there's no nevad. The avodah is the fact that through the avodah and sada, the ultimate purpose of that is revealed, that a lakus is able to be revealed even in a state where seemingly a lakus shouldn't be able to be revealed. And that comes in a way of seviv kolalmin, that what's revealed in Malchus is a level which is higher than the natural state of things of the way Malchus is. And that's what the Rebbe explained, that there's two Avedas. There's Aveda of Meichin and Midas. Meichin and Midas is the natural Aveda of bringing down in the signon of the Vayehiyu Chayei Sarah, the Esrim Shana and the Sheva Shanim into Sarah, which that's the natural state of events that the Meichin and Midas, they come down into Malchus. That's a natural state of events, means that it's not a chiddush. Not a chiddush also means that it's shaykh to the mitzias of Malchus, that Malchus should be able to receive the itis of Meichin and Midas. In other words, in a person, the idea of Malchus is dibur. The Midas are still something which is connected to the person. Yes, it's a gilu which is higher. It's a gilu which is nimshach in the dibur. It's a gilu where the person relates to something which is outside of him, but nevertheless, it's still the person. Go even further to Meichin. Meichin is something higher, because in Meichin, a person can relate to something which is outside of him, can understand something that's outside of him, can understand in our Inyan a lakus which is outside of him. But nevertheless, in the end of the day, the Meichin is still the Meichin of the person. Then you have a higher giluin, which that's the gilui davka of Tiferes, of Pnimius HaKeser, which comes through Tiferes, and we explain not through Yisoid, because Yisoid is, in the end of the day, Netzach Yisoid is the Chitzonius Amidus. This is the Pnimius, the Etzem Amidus, which connect and bring, not just to connect the two aspects together the way it's shaykh to the person, but to merge the two opposites, because it's bringing down from Melech Ilah, from Keser, and that's something which is bringing down Seviv Kolam. Then we said that nevertheless, even that is still not the ultimate. The ultimate is a new Inyan of Nimius Atik, which is Ein Seif, which is totally higher than Elam, is higher, either higher even than Seif. And the Rebbe explains it over here, that that's the idea that Memale Kolalmin and Seviv Kolalmin are both in Yanim, which are Oyer, which was there before Tzimtzum, meaning before Tzimtzum, when there was no Makim Loilamis, the Oyer is there in the ultimate Gilui. Then there's Tzimtzum, which enables there to be a world which hides that Oyer. Let's understand the concept with something that the Rebbe often brings, which the Rebbe Rashab writes in Tavri Samach Vav. What's the purpose of the world? In order to bring down the Oyer, which is above the world, into the world. What's the Chiddush? It was already there beforehand. Before there was a Tzimtzum, the Oyer was already there. And so the Rebbe Rashab explains it in two Eifanim. One Eifin is that yes, the Oyer was there, but it wasn't able to be meir in the Makim Olam. The only way there was able to be a world is through Tzimtzum B'derech Siluk, through removing that light, through pushing away the Lakus. Now that there's a world, the world is a contradiction to Lakus. To be able to bring even that level of Oyer into the world, that's a Chiddush. Even more than that, the Rebbe Rashab continues, Ve'edish Leimar, that there's a continuational thing, which that's in their Chadash, and the truth is they're both of them, and they're both connected together. Because through the fact that we can bring into a world which B'teva is not a place for Gilui Lakus, and we can bring down Gilui Lakus, which is above the world, into that world, that's Mamshech, an Ur Chadash, a new light that never shone, which is a whole new concept that never existed before. And so that's what the Rebbe says over here. Memale Kolalmin is the Tzimtzum, the pull of the Tzimtzum, the effect that the Tzimtzum had on the Oyer Memale was to limit the Oyer, that now it becomes an Oyer which comes down into the world. That's what a person brings through Meichen and Midas, which means through the regular Seder of Avodah, that he brings an oir into the world. That's what the Tzimtzum did in Eira Mamali. In Eira Seiviv, the Tzimtzum pushed it away that it should not reveal itself in the world, but a person through a higher level of Avodah, through bringing down a Lakos into the essence of the world, he brings down then Eira Seiviv, which is above the world. And even more than that, there's an Eir Chadash. That's through the Avodah of mitzvahs, through the Avodah of mitzvahs of doing what the Eibishter wants, of connecting to Lakos. Even in the world, the person brings an Eir Chadash, a new Eir that never shone even beforehand. And the Rebbe explains that that's why Lasid Love, in the time of Mashiach, there's going to be a Shamayim, HaChadashim, Ba'aretz HaChadash Asher Ani Oiser. There's going to be the new heavens and the new earth, because the fact is that everything that exists in the world was created for the Jewish people. Which means that also the Eir Chadash, that never even existed up until now, it was made in order that it should be Nimshach through the Avodah of Yidden. That through the Avodah of Yidden, of doing something new, something that Bechlal is not even Shaykh beforehand. So that brings an Eir Chadash that never shone ever before. And that is something that even before Tzimtzum didn't exist. And this is, we'll go back to the idea of the Levana, the Miuta Levana. It's an interesting thing. Every single Rish Chedesh, we bring a carbon. And the Eibusher says, Haviu olay chatos al asher miatti sayoreach. Come bring for me a carbon chatos for the sin, so to speak, that I did, that I made the moon smaller. And the truth is what the Eibusher did, a sin. But the truth is what happens. Let's look at what a carbon chatos is. A carbon chatos means that a person, when he does something wrong, something that seemingly made him remove himself from the Eibishter, through this carbon chatas, he can now reconnect to the Eibishter in a way that's higher, specifically as a result of the Aveda that he did, that he can now connect higher and bring miut chelbi v'dami and elevate the nefesh abamis, etc., on the Mizbeach in a way that wasn't able to be before. The truth is, this is hinted at in the idea of the Kar Machata, something which is a Maamar of the Alter Rebbe. The Rebbe Rashab at one point in time was a year before his Histalkos. The Rebbe Rashab was a time that he didn't eat or drink for a whole karga 24 hours or whatever it was. And he said, how can I eat and drink now? I just heard from the Alter Rebbe this Maamar. Truth is, the Rebbe says it also in a way, a similar type of way, and that's the concept that it says by Kar Machatas. Allah Bakevesh. Allah Bakevesh, now the Rebbe explains, Meheb Zechuf Hecher, you lift yourself higher. Ufan Allah Seve, Umigita Koparum Zich, and you take a look at what's going on around you. Or the way the Rebbe also explains it, Allah Bakevesh, through the Kevesh, through the crushingness, kevesh is milashon, crushing, through the crush that comes through Avedas, through the fact that a person is far away from the Eibishter Allah, that makes you go and lift yourself up. Upon Allah save you, take a look at Seviv Kolalman. You look at the Elokos, which is above the world. Uvalei lekarendremis mizrachis mizrachis sveinis sveinis maravis maravis dremis machta bisilvana marabis lichtiger. You make it more warm and more light through this keren, meaning the carbon chatos is the ability that a person has as a result of the kevesh, as a result of being crushed, as a result of being distanced from the Eibishter, that he can go even higher than it was ever possible before. The idea of makim shabali tshuva emnem sadik murim einichilum lamid. From the lack, from the missing, a person can go even higher than ever before. And that's what the Eibishter says, Viyu olay chatos al shemiyati oreach. When? Not on Erev Rosh Chodesh. When the moon disappears, that should be the time that the Eibishter remembers that Miyati Yerech. No, when there's a renewal of the moon. The Eibishter says, I want it to come from the Avodah of Yidden down here. The Chatos, the renewal, the new oil, the new light that's able to come as a result of the Miyati Yerech. That Miyati Yerech, but even more, there's the Avodah of the Yerech itself, of L'chiu Mati Atzmeich, that causes the lack and the emptiness and the bittul, which then brings a Eir Chadash Shaleheir that never shown before. And that makes the inyan of Lasid Lava of Ahaya Eir Alevano Keirachama. Ka'Eir Shiva Simei Bereshis. K'Moishaisa Ka'Eir Mutan, like we explained a few times, that there's the Eir Alevano Keirachama, that it becomes the Eir of the Levana. Not only that, it becomes where it's an oil which is completely not lacking, and even more, that is revealed the reason for the miyut, that now there's an ur chadash as a result of this. One that couldn't, so the time of the moon was, and the Abishah said, you're right. There's another melech, which that's the melech of the Mekabel, which that's the purpose of reaching an even higher level, and that's as a result, dafka of the Mati Atzmech, to be able to reach the highest level of their Chadash that never shown beforehand. But all of this comes through the Aved of Yidden. All of this comes through the Aved of Yidden, of Meichen and Midas and of mitzvahs. When a person does mitzvahs, Lisad and Nevad, that brings the idea of the Melech love, the highest Inyan, from before Tzimtzum, that it's Nimshach, not just Seviv Kalalmin, that it could come into the world, but even more than the Ner Chadash, that never shown that that could come now into the world as a result of the Aved of Yidden of Torah and mitzvahs. And that's the idea of a concept also of why we say Melech Lisad and Nevad, like we mentioned before, the idea of Melech Lisad and Nevad, that the king comes to the field through Avodah. That's the way it explains in Zayin. And the Pashta Pirush is that even the king has to come into the field. Meaning that the whole purpose is that even the king, even the Melech Ilah, the Inyan of Tiferes, of Seviv Klam, the Inyan of the Chadash, its purpose, its goal, so to speak, of its existence, is so that a Jew, through Avodah in a world, in a concealed world, in a world filled with concealment, a Jew should be able to be Mamshech Desin. And that's why, the Rebbe explains now, that's why we say Sad and Nevad. Again, we don't say Eretz Nevad. Seemingly it's in Eretz. That's where we bring down the Melech Ilah through Eretz. Through Dafke the Makim of the Eretz. The Rebbe explains that why was the Sadeh created in a way that it's able to be Mamshech the Giluyim, which are above Malchus into Malchus? Because the whole point is that it has to come from the Tachtin itself. The whole point of Dira B'Tachtainim, and that's the whole idea of making a moon, of creating a Mekabel, of creating a situation where there's no light, that the Tachtin itself is a Makim Mukhshar, brings down this Gili. So when essentially the Yisra in Aretz Bakaili is that even the Melech was there for the Sadeh, so that there should be the Hamshacha through the Tachtin itself. And therefore this Hamshacha comes through the fact that we come into Eretz. And we break that helem, the concealment that's there in Eretz, and that's the whole idea of Adam Arishan being chased out of Gan Eden, as well as we said earlier, the idea of the Churban Beis Hamikdash, that there's no Beis Hamikdash and there's no Gilui Elokos, and Adarabah Yidden are sent into Galus where we don't feel Elokos, but that's the purpose of it, that we, through our Avodah, can come and bring down into the Tachtim B'Yisr, transform it into Sadeh. But that's why the ultimate is then revealed by taking even the lowest, so the purpose of the Avodah in Sadeh, in Gan Eden, or of the Avodah in Beis Hamikdash is revealed Dafka, when there is a total lack, when there's a total emptiness, when there's a total lack of oil, that reveals the etzem, the reality of Elokos, of being able to bring down the truth of the Eibishter into the reality of the physical world. And that the Rebbe explains is two levels. There is the idea of Sadeh, which Sadeh is the fact that in the end of the day, it's Gan Eden, but it's still Malchus. It's still a level of Oir, which is below, which is inside the world. And the person is Mamshech into that Gilui Elokos. Then there's the idea of Aretz, and even more than that, the other side, like the Rebbe explains, is Eretz and Sadeh of Lumazeh. Eretz of Lumazeh is one level. That's still that the fact that there's Klippa, the way it was created by the Eibishter. The way it was created by the Eibishter, there's a concealment over the world. Sadeh of Lumazeh is when a person goes and connects to Esav Ish Sadeh, when a person connects to the Klippa, when a person does things wrong, when a person goes and is connected to Mamish, not just that the Eibishter created, that there's no Gilui Elokos, but the person adds, and it's added even more through the Vedas of a person in the header and the lack of Gilui Elokos. That's where the Melech is Nevat. And like the Rebbe explains it also when you get to the month of Elul. Where is the king revealed? Melech Bisadeh Dafka in the Sadeh of L'umazeh. The reason why he takes off his crown, which that's the idea of the lack of Gili Or. That's the idea of the Mati Atzmich of Malchus. He takes off his crown and he takes off his royal robes for a Jew who's in the Sada, who's in the furthest place away, the Sada of Lumase, which even is like the idea of Midbar. Not that the king goes into the Midbar, but he goes to the Sada in order that a Jew who's in the Sada of Lumase, which is the Midbar, he should be able to also connect to the Eibishter, because that's the purpose, that's the goal. So when a person sees these inyanim of heder, an idea of a lack of gilulukos, an idea of galus, and a cheshech kafel umechupel, which is an impossible thing to understand how and what. How does a person deal with it? Not only by knowing that eventually it will be different, but by realizing that dafka through the fact that I can reveal a lukus, whether it's in the cheshech that was caused by me, whether it's in the inyanim of where I went where it shouldn't be, whether it's the things where I am where I shouldn't be, whether it's another Jew helping another Jew who's in the place where he shouldn't be, whether it's in the cheshech of the galus when I reveal there, when I bring out the lavei des adama shalukach misham, I bring out over there the reality of a lukus even in there. Then dafke through that there's melech ilah, that more mamshich the gilui of keser, and even higher than that the gilui of ar chadash that never shown before. And that's the idea of Vayehiyu Chayei Meya Shana Ve'esrim Shana Ve'sheva Shanim. Never says that seemingly what's going on over here. Sarah, she drew down into Malchus Sheva Shanim, Esrim Shana, and Meya Shana. Why do we say it in Mulmayl Mata? She drew it down from below. She drew down first Midas, then Moichin, then the Keser Melech Ilah. So the Rebbe says, yes, that's taka the way it went. But after that, and that's why Sarah Zachsa L'chayin Iloin, she made that this union of Meya Shana should be Nimshach into all the other inyanim of Esrim Shana and Sheva Shana. That means she brought down the Gilui Lakus in a way that every aspect of it feels. So it's taking the Sada Nevad, even the Sada of Gdusha, and bringing into the Sada of Gdusha, which means bringing even into the inyanim of Memali Kol Almin, the inyanim of Meichin and Midas, the way they're Nimshach and Eretz. Bringing into them the reality of the Oir Chadash, of the reality that their whole purpose and their whole existence is dafka in order to bring an Oir Chadash, a Gili of Elokus into it. And that makes the idea, and that's why it's revealed much more in Shnei Chayei after you understand the whole idea of Yisnodas Bakeli Melech Hasad and Nevad. Then you can come to the ultimate, to bring it down into Biyah, to bring it down to the lowest levels. Because it's not just that we bring it down also into the lowest levels, by bringing it down to those lowest levels, that adds also into the Gila of Kulan Shavin L'Teva, to the extent that Shnei Chayei there's no number, because there it brings down the etzem, which is above any type of separation, where it's only a lakus and where there's nothing else. And the Rebbe continues that that's all nimshach into, you bring down the Meya Shana, Sheva Shanim, Esrim Shana, Sheva Shanim, into Biyah, into the physical body of a Jew, which is connected by the body and soul to the extent that it becomes Arichos Yamim V'Shanim Tevis Teira Mitzvahs Yarn Chsidish Yarn. It's very interesting because they were saying the brachas that are by a birthday, which is the union of Chav Cheshvan. Chav Cheshvan is a general birthday. This Maamar was set up for Chav Cheshvan, and like we mentioned before, it was the last Maamar and the last Chav Cheshvan, or Bismichos to the last Chav Cheshvan, that the Rebbe Rashab said. It's interesting. There's the last Maamar that he says, which is Mashal of Yergesh is going Mamalik, which is on Purim, right before the Stalkus in connection to Beis Nisan. This is something else. This is where it's revealing Dafke in the end of the completion of his life. It's revealing the continuation, which Eikar by the Rebbe Rashab, you see that in he revealed the inyanim of Esrim Shana. Like we said, he's Malchus. From the Baal Shem Tov, Malchus, from the Inyanim of higher than Giluyim, of bringing down the Oir through his teaching Chassidus, through Taim Chitmimim, etc. To the extent that it lives and it continues, that Irgein Himmel, the Ksavim Lazichayich, that it continues into the Gashmias of the Ksavim, into the Gashmias of the physical world and of the person who learns it. And that idea is there, Dafke, in the birthday. That's the concept that the Rebbe brings Chsidish Yorin, Mitzvahs Yorin, that the Rebbe says like this, that when the body is nizdachich, then the neshama wants to stay in the body, even though by Sarah it left for a different reason. It's not that because there was the tachlich hazichuch, now the neshama can go up. On the contrary, once the body is nizdachich, then the neshama wants to reveal itself dafka in the lowest place in the physical existence of the world. And that's something which is nimshach, that continuation of being and continuing dafka when there's a lack, dafka when there's a chisaron, dafka when there seems to be a lack of gilui elokus, showing and revealing there the chadash that makes the chibur, the ultimate connection of the neshama with the guf. Like the Rebbe quotes over here, the yem avav cheshvan, where the Rebbe Kusil Lipler said to the Alter Rebbe, when the Alter Rebbe wanted to give him a bracha for arichos yamim, he said, Nishkim poirish yorin v'seinayim lehem v'lo yiru, was nayim lehem v'lo yishmo, sie haben eigen, sie sind nicht keine Lokos, sie haben evidence, sie hadden nicht, der hadden nicht die Gilui Lokos. What does that mean? That the ultimate of Gilui Lokos, the ultimate of life, the Rebbe asks a question, why does Rebbe Kusil Lepler, how can you make conditions? If someone wants to give you a bracha, take the bracha. You don't want the bracha, don't take the bracha. Why are you making conditions in the bracha? So the Rebbe says not conditions. Kosil Lepler was explaining it, and it's interesting, he didn't need to explain it to the Alter Rebbe. He needed, in a certain sense, to explain it to himself, that I should know and I should recognize, yes, the Rebbe is giving me a bracha b'arichos yam for the neshama to be in the body, but that means that the neshama brings Teira and Mitzvahs Yad, the neshama brings a lokus into the body, into the reality, and even to the lowest aspect of reality. That through that you get harchava until the merchava atzmi. It's interesting, the merchava atzmi in Chassidus means something which is in the essence of abundance, which is beyond abundance, where it reaches the essence, because that's the whole point of what we have over here, that through the darkness and through the concealment and through the aretz and through the sada of l'ummah, to the extent of its mamash, in the worst level, lowest level, because not just in the elam is biyah, it comes down into a physical material body and the material existence, but as a result we bring the merchava atzmi, the ultimate abundance of the connection of a Jew to the Eibishter, which that brings amigate l'kras Mashiach tzidkeinu in a way of simchas elam al reisham. That means that we go with the simchas elam. Simchas elam means there's an abundance, and we go l'kras Mashiach tzidkeinu because that's the ultimate of what it is to come to the fulfillment of V'hayyu eira levana kaira chama, of the gilui of a lakos in the world itself, which that's revealed by Mashiach tzidkeinu and dafka in a way of simcha. And it's interesting, like we mentioned earlier, that there's the concept of the year. In the year, Chav Cheshvan is the concept of almost the shleimus of Chav Av. Like we said, there was no Maamar from Chav Av till Chav Cheshvan. Chav Av is the shleimus of Chamisha Asar B'Av. The moon is in its fulfillment. But then there starts being the union of Melech L'Sada Nevat. Of the seeming idea of taking off the levush malchus and all the giluim, and the ultimate purpose is for the keser of cheshvan, which that's the building of the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. When it comes to the ultimate gili which came from all the cheshach and Helen Vester, and that gives a person koyach in a time of concealment, in a time of hiddenness, in a time of Helen Vester, in a time when a person itself, like we said, in his own avodah, in his own life, seems to feel like that, to bring out not just that, to bring out the gilui, but to bring out that the ultimate of it all is to bring the gilui like the Mesiras Nefesh of Chibur and Neshama V'Aguf, of being able to go l'kras Mashiach tzidkeinu, ne'efn of simchas elam al reisham, take it from Yad Mamish.